I should have known the night would turn. The air was too still, the candles too symmetrical, the wine too red. But when you've paid for every detail, from the rooftop garden lights to the silk dress your sister now twirls in like a debutante, you try to believe the smile on her face means something real. "Speech!" someone called out. Probably Cousin Mark, already tipsy and oblivious. Nina stepped forward, her eyes glittering, soaking up the spotlight like a sponge. "Before anything else, I want to thank my amazing sister for throwing me the best birthday ever." Applause. I smiled, nodded, the kind of practiced response that doesn't reach your eyes. I wasn't doing this for applause. Then Evelyn stood. She didn't smile, just took the mic like a queen reclaiming her throne. "I'd like to say something." 2. A hush spread. Even the background music dimmed. "I'm proud of my girls," she began, syrupy sweet. "Nina, always full of light, and Talia." Her pause lingered like a warning. "Talia's done very well for herself. We don't always understand her choices, but family supports family." My fingers curled around my champagne glass. The edge in her voice could have cut marble. "And so," she went on, "tonight we thought it'd be the perfect moment to share a little dream with our dear Talia." She looked over at Nina, who gave her a smug nod. "Since Talia's doing so well, CFO and all, she's decided to gift me a house. Nothing too grand, just a proper place to enjoy retirement." She paused for effect. "And Nina deserves a car that matches her ambition. We were thinking that white Mercedes she tried last week." Laughter scattered across the terrace, nervous, hesitant. Someone coughed. A few people clapped, unsure whether this was a joke or a demand in disguise. I stood slowly, clearing my throat. "Mom," I said evenly, "I've already paid off your condo, cleared your credit card debt, I covered Nina's tuition, and this entire event tonight, it's on my tab. I think I've given enough." There was a beat of silence. Then Evelyn's smile vanished. "Ungrateful," she spat. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Her voice hardened, louder. "You think a few checks mean you've done your duty? You think you're better than us now? You forget who fed you when your father left, who worked 2 jobs to get you where you are." "I didn't forget," I replied, steady. "That's why I gave. But giving doesn't mean servitude. You selfish little..." The glass came fast, a full one. Red wine, straight into my face. Gasps shot across the rooftop. Someone dropped a fork. Nina let out a choked laugh she tried to swallow. Wine soaked through my dress, cold and metallic. It stung my eyes, but not enough to blur the truth. Evelyn stood stiff, chest heaving, righteous. Nina stared at the floor. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't flinch. I wiped my cheek with the back of my hand, nodded once and walked, through their silence, through the candles I paid for, past the photographer who didn't raise his camera. No one followed, not my mother, not my sister. And at that moment, it hit me. They didn't love me. They loved what I gave. And I was done giving. The wine stain was gone from my dress, but not from my memory. I'd had it dry cleaned the next day, not because I planned to wear it again, but because I needed it preserved, a relic of clarity, proof that love doesn't always come with ribbons and cards. Sometimes, it hurls itself at you in front of 50 people with a wine glass in hand. I sat at the kitchen counter that Sunday, flipping through a leather folder of financial records I rarely opened. Marcus, barefoot and quiet as usual, made coffee, without asking. He knew this wasn't a conversation moment yet. There they were, all the transfers, all the receipts, all the ways I'd tried to earn what should have been freely given, $47,800, student loans for Nina, $3,200, Nina's Invisalign, $2,100, vacation to Cabo, where Evelyn insisted on first-class seats, $28,000, down payment for Mom's condo, complete with new kitchen appliances, $800 monthly support wired to Mom, every first Monday without fail. For 6 years, $7,600 just from the allowance. Add birthdays, Christmases, last-minute emergencies, Nina's business launch that never launched. Rough math placed the total over $180,000. I pushed the folder away like it might burn me. Maybe it already had. Marcus set a mug down beside me. You okay? I didn't answer right away. Just stared into the steam curling up from the coffee like it might deliver some kind of answer. Or apology. Or anything that made this feel less hollow. They always said I was lucky, I said quietly. That I owed it to them, because Mom raised us alone, because Nina didn't have the same chances. They kept score, Marcus said, sitting across from me. But only on your side of the board. I gave a dry laugh. And every time I thought I was caught up, the rules changed. He was silent a beat, then said, You know, it's not just about money. It's about what they think you owe them emotionally. They've built this whole narrative around your guilt, and they feed off it. I looked at him. Really looked. Marcus had seen me through layoffs, promotions, a miscarriage I still hadn't found words for. But he'd never asked me for anything. That cost more than honesty. I guess I thought, I said slowly, that if I gave enough, paid enough, they'd finally stop resenting me. Marcus shook his head. They won't. Because it was never about the money, it was about control. I let that sit. Then something flickered. A thought. Half-formed. Sharp. What if I stopped giving? I asked. Not out of spite, just stopped. No more money. No more rescuing. Marcus met my gaze. What if? What if I asked instead? I whispered. What if I showed up with nothing? No gifts, no credit cards, and asked them to love me back? Just me, no strings. He studied me for a long time, not with fear, but recognition. Then he nodded. Do it. And in that moment, the fog that had followed me for years lifted just a little. Not enough to see the full path, but enough to take the first step, because if love could be bought, then maybe the only truth left. Who stayed when you stopped paying? I wore the cheapest clothes I owned, a plain t-shirt, faded jeans, and a hoodie I found at the back of Marcus's closet. No makeup, no jewelry, not even the watch I'd worn every day for 5 years. I needed to look like someone they couldn't envy. Someone they might pity, if there was any pity in them left. If they were going to love me, it had to be like this. I parked 2 blocks from Mom's house, just far enough that no one would see the car. It was still technically mine, but I didn't want the shiny black Range Rover giving me away before I could speak. When Evelyn opened the door, she didn't smile. She looked me up and down like I'd arrived selling vacuum cleaners. Talia? Hey, Mom. I forced a small, shaky smile. Can I come in? She hesitated, her eyes narrowing, then stepped aside. Nina's in the kitchen. I stepped over the threshold I'd crossed 100 times, but never like this. No gifts in hand, no spa vouchers tucked into birthday cards. Just me, Nina. Didn't look up from her phone. Wow, she muttered. Didn't expect to see you without a designer bag strapped to your shoulder. I didn't rise to it. I couldn't. I wanted to talk to both of you, I said quietly. Something happened. Mom sat down with the grace of a woman expecting drama but never blame. If it's another lecture about how we embarrassed you at your precious rooftop party, save it. No, I said. It's not that. I let my breath catch, let my voice shake. Theatrics, yes, but part of me meant it. I had lost something, not the money, something deeper. My company's under investigation. There's some financial stuff I didn't see coming. I lost my job. My accounts are frozen. I had to sell my place. Nina finally looked up. Wait, you're broke? I nodded. I have nowhere to go. The silence that followed wasn't shock. It was calculation. I watched it flicker behind their eyes, cost versus benefit. Fear versus shame. Evelyn snorted. So what? You want to move in? Just for a while, I said. Until things stabilize, she laughed. Actually laughed. You? The one who used to roll her eyes at this cramped little house? Now you want to come crawling back like a lost puppy? I'm not crawling, I said softly. I'm asking. Nina crossed her arms. You were always too flashy to last. I guess we knew it would catch up eventually. I swallowed. So, is that a no? Mom leaned forward, face cold as marble. You think just because you tossed us some money over the years, we owe you now? You gave to feel superior, to make us feel small. That's not true. Oh, spare me. You came here to beg, and I'm telling you, no. You're not staying here. This house is full enough already. Nina smirked. Welcome to rock bottom, sis. I nodded once. Didn't argue. Didn't plead. Thanks for your time, I said quietly, and walked out. The sun had set. The breeze carried someone's barbecue smoke and the faint sound of a TV next door. I walked 2 blocks in silence, got into the Range Rover, and shut the door. I didn't drive home. I reclined the seat, pulled Marcus's hoodie tighter, and closed my eyes. Just one night. That's all I needed to make the lesson permanent. They never loved me. They loved what I gave, and when I took it away, even just for a day, they showed me exactly who they were. I just needed to make sure I never forgot it. The law office smelled like old paper and new power. I sat across from Mr. Langston, the same man who'd helped me draft my first investment agreement when I was 24. Back then, I had stars in my eyes and too much faith in blood ties. Now, I had none of that. Just a folder, a plan, and the kind of silence that comes after heartbreak. I'd like to start the process of severing all financial entanglements with my mother and sister, I said. He didn't blink. Personal or legal? Both. The folder landed on the desk with a quiet finality. Inside, a copy of the vehicle title for Nina's car, still under my name. The mortgage deed for the condo Evelyn lived in, purchased in full, but never transferred. Printouts of shared credit cards, accounts I co-signed, accounts they maxed out without ever intending to pay down. Langston reviewed each document without a word. Then he looked up. Are you prepared for the fallout? I already lived it, I said. This is just cleanup. He nodded, the faintest look of respect passing across his face, and got to work. 3 days later, Nina received a formal notice to return the vehicle. Her name had never been on the paperwork. The pink slip bore mine, and mine alone. She had 7 days before it would be reported and towed. That same afternoon, Evelyn tried to buy groceries and found her card declined. The joint credit line she'd guilted me into years ago was closed, permanently. A courtesy call had already been made to inform her, and on the 4th day, a manila envelope was slipped into Evelyn's mailbox. It was not handwritten. It came with no apology, no explanation, no apology flowers, just a typed notice. Effective in 90 days, the tenant must vacate the property. The registered owner has reclaimed sole occupancy rights. There were no phone calls, no voicemails, no knocks at my door, just Facebook posts. Moms first. Some people forget who raised them, but God sees everything. Faith, truth will out. Then Nina's. Funny how the rich only feel generous when they're in control. Keep your car. I have my pride. Then came the texts. From Nina. Are you seriously doing this? You are sick. You said you loved us. I was. Your sister, Talia. How could you? Then Mom. You've always been cold. Just like your father. No wonder he left us both. Don't bother showing up when I'm in a hospital bed someday. I'll tell them to leave your name off the contact list. Didn't respond. I blocked them both. Not out of anger, but clarity. There were no dramatic speeches. No attempts to make peace. Just signatures, boundaries, envelopes. Done. It was strange how peaceful the rage of others sounded when it wasn't crashing against you anymore. The storm still came, but this time, I wasn't standing in the rain. I had built a roof for myself, and for once, I was the only one under it. The knock came on a Sunday afternoon. Not urgent, not aggressive, soft, timed, like someone practicing contrition. Marcus was in the garden trimming the hedges. I opened the front door slowly, already knowing who it would be before the hinges. even moved. Evelyn and Nina stood on my porch, together, side by side, like two actors in the final act of a tragedy they didn't write, but desperately wanted to rewrite. They looked nothing like the women who had laughed at my imagined downfall a week ago. Evelyn's lipstick was smudged, her blouse wrinkled in a way she'd usually call unpresentable. Nina wore oversized sunglasses, but I could still see the puffiness beneath them. Her cheeks were streaked with mascara. They were holding hands like a mother and daughter heading into church to confess sins they had no intention of repenting. "Talia," Mom whispered first, her voice breaking like glass under bare feet. We made a mistake." I didn't speak. "We were angry," Nina added quickly. "Scared. We said things we didn't mean." Mom squeezed her hand. "But we're family. And family sticks together, right?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. I didn't ask them to come in. I didn't move. They fidgeted under the silence. "You're right to be upset," Evelyn continued. "But all this, lawyers, evictions, taking back the car, it's too far. We can fix this. You don't need to do all this." I tilted my head. "Why now?" They paused. And that was the only answer I needed. They knew. Somehow, somewhere, they'd learned the truth. I was never broke. The company was never under investigation. The house had never been sold. The whole fall from grace had been a test, and they'd failed it without hesitation. They hadn't just stepped back when I fell. They kicked to make sure I stayed down, mocked me, called me pathetic. Slammed the gear. Door in my face when I asked for the same help I'd given 100 times. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. She reached out, but I didn't take her hand. "Don't punish us like this," she said, voice cracking. "I gave you life. And I gave you mine," I said softly. For 6 years I gave everything I could. And it was never enough. Not for you. Nina stepped forward, voice trembling. "You're my big sister. Please don't abandon me." That word, abandon, sat heavy in the air, as if they hadn't shoved me out the moment they thought I had nothing left to offer. As if exile didn't count when it came from them. As if loyalty was a one-way transaction, payable in wire transfers and guilt. I let the silence stretch, let the discomfort settle around them like heat in a closed room. Then I stepped aside, not to let them in, but just enough to say clearly, "I'm not abandoning you. I'm choosing me, for once." And I closed the door. Not with a slam, just a quiet, deliberate click. I didn't stand there after. I didn't cry or sink to the floor or question whether I had gone too far. I walked into my office, pulled out my phone, dialed Mr. Langston. "I need to update the documents," I said. "Everything we discussed before, move forward with full separation. I want new terms for the inheritance trust as well." "You're sure?" he asked gently. "Yes. Include a clause that removes any claims of dependency or undue support. They need to know there's no backdoor, no future payout, no leverage. Nothing left to manipulate." He paused. "Understood. I'll send everything by the end of the week." I hung up. Through the window, I saw Marcus glance toward the porch, then toward me. I gave him a small nod. He didn't ask. He knew. Later, that evening, I found a letter slid under our front door, a handwritten apology. Tear stains on the envelope. No return address. I didn't read it. I walked it out to the fire pit behind the house, struck a match, and dropped it in. The paper curled and darkened, glowing red before fading to black. Some things deserve silence. Some apologies only come when power disappears. And some lessons, if you're lucky, arrive just in time to set you free. This was mine. The lake didn't ask questions. It just shimmered, soft and unbothered, every morning at 7 when I sat with my coffee. Marcus had built us a little dock behind the house. Sometimes he fished. Sometimes we just sat there in silence. After years of white noise and emotional debt, silence felt like a luxury I hadn't realized I was missing. We'd sold the condo, in the city. Let go of the penthouse, the skyline, the non-stop networking. The new place wasn't flashy. It didn't have marble countertops or imported lighting, but it had windows that opened to birdsong. It had peace, and it had space. Space for me to start again. 6 months had passed since I closed that door, and not once had I reached to reopen it. Instead, I built something new, something mine, the Quiet Enough. That's what I named it. A private scholarship fund for young women from manipulative households. Not just those who were abused or abandoned, but the ones who were drained slowly, the ones whose emotional labor had been extracted in silence for years, disguised as love or duty. I interviewed each applicant myself, read their letters by hand. Some sounded like echoes of my own story. Some were even worse. But all of them had one thing in common. They needed a place to begin, and someone to tell them they didn't have to buy their worth. This year, 4 girls got their start. Next year, I hoped for double. The morning of my 30th birthday, I baked my own cake. Chocolate, just the way I liked it. No decorative frosting, no name written in cursive. Just simple, dense sweetness, still warm from the oven. Marcus made tea. We didn't post anything online, didn't throw a party. He gave me a card, hand-drawn, with stick figures of us by the lake. That night, I lit a single candle, made a wish, didn't say it out loud. I didn't need to. There was no yelling. No guilt, no demands wrapped in guilt trips and phrases like, after all I've done for you. Just the hum of the cicadas outside, the glow of the candle, and the sound of my own breath, steady, not shaking. That's when I saw the envelope. No return address, just my name on the front, in Nina's handwriting. Marcus walked over, glanced at it, then looked at me. "You don't have to," he said. "I know." I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I walked outside to the fire pit. It was quiet. The sky above was littered with stars that didn't need an audience to shine. I struck a match, held the envelope over the flame until it curled, then dropped it gently into the pit. I stood there until it was gone. I didn't do it in anger, I did it in peace. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean letting someone back in. Sometimes it means letting them go, and meaning it. They said I was ungrateful, but I gave everything. Until I gave myself back, I built a table where peace had a seat, and for once I was the only one who needed to be there.